So a large part of our suffering and our distress is when energy kind of gets stuck. And what I love about the tapping is that it works really, really well with negative thoughts, negative beliefs, negative emotion.
No matter what people come in with, there's always this kind of underlying stress, whether it's in your life or with the health challenges that you may be challenged with. But so we want to look at ways to help you, things that you can do on your own. And so we brought in our very own Shawn Gallagher, who works at Alive Holistic Health Clinic. And by the way, before Tanya actually introduces her more formally, I just want to go off the cuff, because the reason why I personally know Shawn is because when I was going through my fertility challenges, at that time, I had a bunch of patients all in a row saying, I saw Shawn Gallagher and she helped me and she does hypnosis. And I'm like, well, that's interesting. What the heck is it? Right? I had no idea. And so out of my curiosity and always striving to look at ways to help people and find resources for people to go through, I wanted to check out Shawn for myself. Plus, of course, as I was mentioning, I was going through my fertility challenges. So I thought, okay, let's see if she can help me. And then simultaneously, I'll be a super spy and check out what she's doing. So I did that. And boy, Shawn, you floored me. And since then, I was like, you need to join Alive because you're the best deal. Oh my gosh. And she didn't do it for 8 years. And finally she surrendered. I wore her down.
I didn't know that history. That's so funny.
And the reason why I say this is because game changer, the things that you talk about, and I'm like, I come from a very scientific mind, but yet at the same time, it's when we talk and delve into the things that really reach into our subconscious that can impact our physiology and then our emotions and our behavior, that is very real. And Shawn has this beautiful ability to tap into that. And I've seen crazy transformations when I've sent new people, they come back and they're like, oh my gosh, my life has transformed. I'm a different person. So seriously, guys, she's a real deal. And so now Tanya is actually going to give you her background. And the reason why we're having her on today is you're going to demonstrate EFT. So it's tapping. Some people might be familiar with this now because it's become a thing, and even though it's been around forever. And we're also on a separate episode going to do hypnosis. So this, you guys are totally in for a treat. Okay, Tanya, let's go.
Shawn Gallagher is a former midwife. Thank you, Mary. So Shawn Gallagher is a former midwife, childbirth educator, and board-certified hypnotist and hypnofertility practitioner. She creates and teaches ChildbirthJoy Prenatal Hypnosis program. And as Mary mentioned, she uses a wide range of modalities, including the tapping and hypnosis. And in addition to that, NLP, coaching, and matrix re-imprinting. And those can be all employed in a calmer and more, or they can all be employed so that you feel like you're in a calmer and more confident state for any of the issues, including but not limiting fertility, pregnancy issues, birthing preparation. So anybody who has fears around labor, any kind of habit changes, sleep difficulties. And then the biggest, I feel like, because it can apply to any condition, reducing anxiety and fears and worry patterns. So we are so grateful to have you on the show today. I keep saying I'm going to come and see you myself because, we all have things we have to deal with, that are in our subconscious. And I have seen with patients the same, as Mary mentioned, transformations in their mindsets around things. And I know that sometimes it's at a subconscious level. You don't even realize you're holding yourself back, and you don't realize it for anything. I mean, fertility is a whole, other thing, I guess, beast, you could say. But even if it's just the anxiety around it, I mean, I could be wrong, but I don't think that it's you can will yourself into having a baby. My mom used to say, just change your mindset, you'll have a baby, or don't worry, everything's going to be okay. And normally that would help. But when I went through fertility, I found it really challenging. And so not that I reached out personally to a hypno therapist at the time who wasn't you, and she really helped me, not necessarily, from a perspective of willing a pregnancy, but like the stress around it. So like, I really believe in it from that perspective. I didn't realize the impact it would have on me. So Shawn, thank you for coming and joining us today. Please tell us a little bit about what is tapping and what is hypnosis, and how can that help fertility or stress around fertility or just life in general?
Yes. Okay. Tapping is one of those, it's interesting. It's been around, as you say, for a long time. And in my world, I've been doing it for a very long time, but it is coming to kind of the surface for a lot of people, with just helping with many areas. So whether it's sleep, managing weight, physical issues, but it's also known as EFT. It's short for Emotional Freedom Technique. And it did get its start initially. There was a book, I believe it's still in print, called Instant Emotional Feeling. And I actually saw the book in the library and I went, it's the holy grail. That's like exactly what I've been looking for a very long time. And so I got the book. And it's an interesting book, but it's very complex. And so Gary Craig, an engineer, took that concept and a couple of other ideas, and he distilled it down into an 80-page document that has since been distilled down to very simple, very easy process. So for anybody, like, we're all dealing with stress. Like, there's a lot going on the planet right now. So stress is one of those things that there's good stress, there's not good stress, but really at the end of the day, it's about just kind of like, if it just feels like it's too much. And we have this phrase in our language, like the straw that broke the camel's back. So it's just kind of like, we can often go through our days dealing with a lot, but then it can just feel like there's just that one thing that short circuits it. So in traditional Chinese medicine, we know there are these points on the body that are part of the meridian system. So it's like kind of like the interchange on a highway, right, where cars are coming on and off. So the energy is moving. With tapping, we're instead of needles, we're tapping lightly on key points of the body, and it's keeping the energy moving. So a large part of our suffering and our distress is when energy kind of gets stuck. And what I love about the tapping is that it works really, really well with negative thoughts, negative beliefs, negative emotions. And in the world of positive, you should be sunshine, lollipops, and roses, and then your life will be perfect. It's kind of a no-no to be talking about negative stuff. It's like, oh no, don't talk about it, don't think about it, because then you'll make that bad thing happen. Like, well, actually, that's not true. And if we tap on the negative thing, the negative thought, the emotion, that actually kind of brings it down and helps the energy to flow and to move. And the ability to, the thing is, like, if I feel really, really, really bad and I just say, okay, I'm feeling amazing, I feel positive, I'm feeling incredible, then I'm lying to myself, right? Like, it's not even true. So if I can just have this ability to tap on how I'm actually feeling, then it does sort of lighten the load in the nervous systems, and then it opens up a space to feeling better. So what we could do is we could do a round of tapping on just stress, and that can be whatever that means to anybody watching this video. So it could be fertility stress, it could be financial stress, it could be work, it could be like bad traffic on, your way from A to B.
So Shawn,
Yeah.
so you know, there are going to be people that will be watching it, but then there's going to be people that are listening through
Yes.
podcasting. So when you do it, just please verbalize everything that you're doing, right?
Explain,
Providing the
yeah.
verbal cues. That'd be awesome. But you know what, guys? Go to myfertilology.com, and I think it might be really great to actually watch this. Okay, so you can listen through the podcast, but afterwards, circle back and watch the YouTube version of it so you can witness it, and then you can do it on your own.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Thank you, Mary. So I think it's helpful to come back. I do see people, when I explain where the points are for tapping, they kind of veer off at them. So if you can just like come back, take a look where the points are, and then get a clear idea of where they are. So I tend to start with the side of the hand. So it's on the hand where the baby finger runs into the wrist, and I just use the fingers on my opposite hand. So it doesn't matter which hand you tap on. Some people will actually tap on both sides of the hand together. So whatever works for you, whatever you like, it's all good. So side of the hand, and then the next spot is the start of the eyebrow, and you can actually do both points with 2 fingers. And then some people will tap with both hands. So you can just do one, but it's where the eyebrow starts. So you're tapping on the start of the eyebrow. The next point is the side of the eye. So it's on the bone, where the eyebrow ends. Under the eye is under the pupil. Under the nose is the natural indent. And a lot of the kind of little valleys in the body are places where energy tends to, where these points are.
So when you are showing those points, are we using both hands so that we do both hands on the side, both under the...
Both sides, but you can just do one side. So the meridians are bilateral. So if you're doing one side, the other side is getting stimulated as well, but you can do both. Yeah, absolutely. So it depends on, like if I'm holding my phone or I'm doing something with one hand and tapping with the other. So chin, natural indent. The collarbone in traditional Chinese medicine is K27. So it's you've got the U of the collarbone, you go to the top of the U, and then you're just going to come down. You're looking for the natural indent there. So I tend to do fingertips, but you can also do it flat hand. And then, so just kind of that natural place. And if any points are tender, there is a spot called the tender spot, which is kind of like, if you just go to the, under your shoulder, above the armpit, you just set a root of red. You find that little, you'll find it. Pretty much everybody has a tender area there. We're not going to tap on that point, but it's just to show that any of these points, when they're tender, it's like a fuse has blown in your electrical system, and just tapping or rubbing or massaging those points will help the energy system come back online. Next point is under the arms. If you imagine the seam of a shirt and your bra line, I tend to do a flat hand, but you can do bigger chips as well. And then top of the head, there's a number of meridians that come together at the top of the head. This is a common point for traditional Chinese medicine, acupuncture, where they'll put a point there. So those are the points, and I'll run you through the basic exercise.
This is great. And just not questions, but just as a comment, because I'm a traditional Chinese medicine practitioner, they're all actually based on acupuncture points, and you're tapping on the acupuncture points, which has what we call the lowest skin resistance. So not much frequency. So through the act of tapping, you're physically creating a pathway that will impact the brain's communication with the body. So it's very cool.
Yeah. So what we want to do is we tend to just look at a 0 to 10 scale. And if you want to just rate your stress, 0 to 10, with 0 being zero stress, I'm not stressed at all. 10 being holy smokes, it's about 10 out of 10 in stress. I've reached my limit and I'm too much. So again, it's not science. Just find a number that usually for me, it's just a number that pops into my head. And so as you think about that number, that can be valuable when you come back to it and take a look at it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say side of the hand, blah, 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 blah. You tap on the side of your hand, you repeat blah, 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 blah. And then when I go to eyebrow, da, 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 you tap on your eyebrow, you repeat da, 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 da. But you don't need to say side of the hand, eyebrow, side of the eye. That's just to kind of, little view through the point. That make sense? Yeah.
Yes, of course. Let's go to it.
Okay. So rating your stress 0 to 10, side of the hand, repeat after me. Even though I have all this stress, I'm very stressed. right here, right now, could I love and accept myself anyway? Even though I have all this stress, and this stress is stressing me out. I need to lead a stress-free life, you know? Could I be gentle, kind, and compassionate with myself? Even though I have all this stress, and I'm not making this up. There are really good reasons for all my stress. And if my stress were to just go away, I would be fine. Doesn't look like that's happening anytime soon. Could I be gentle, kind, and compassionate with myself anyway? Eyebrow. All this stress and all that it means. Side of the eye. All this stress. I'm feeling so stressed. Under the eye, all this stress and all that it means. And I'm doing tapping. I don't think that's going to help. Maybe it's even adding to my stress. Under the nose, I'm so stressed. Chin, all this stress and how it shows up in my body. Collarbone, all this stress and how it shows up in my thoughts. Under the arm, I am so stressed. Top of the head, all this stress and all that it means. Okay, take a breath. Just check in on your body and check in on that 0 to 10 scale and see if you can notice if there's a difference. Maybe it's the same. Sometimes it goes up a little bit. It's all good. So what's that like for you?
I think it's down 1 notch. I said it was at 6 and then it's down to 5, but I guess I was just really like figuring out what you were doing. I'm like, and finding it very interesting to really like how you guided us. It's like you were really acknowledging the stress. I didn't expect that. So that was really kind of cool. Tanya?
Yeah, so I rated mine as 7 and it went down to 6. So it went down like marginally. I'm like, okay, I'm relaxed and I'm tapping on meridians, saying these things which are true. Yeah.
Okay, great. Yeah. So some people will say my stress is a 9 out of 10, and then they do 1 round of tapping and it goes to 0. It's like, whoa, that's amazing. Doesn't happen a ton, but it can happen. It can be really surprising when that happens. Most people find it comes down a little bit by a little bit. So if somebody's at a 6 and it comes down to a 5, or a 7 comes down to a 6, and you didn't do the numbers beforehand, then the tendency after is to say, well, I'm still stressed. But if you're seeing that it's come down just a little bit, it's like, oh, okay. So then what you could do, if you have the time, you could just do a number of rounds of tapping on that same theme and bring it down even more. So the goal is to bring it down to a 0, but I just find if, if I don't have the time or there's other stuff going on, and I get it to like a 4, anything under 5 is like, okay, that's feeling a little lighter, a little easier. I can go and do this task that I have ahead of me and not feel so, stress coming into it.
Thank you for that, because being an overachiever or competitive, it's like you want to get it down to 0 because that's, you got to like do it all. But you're putting less stress on yourself, which actually helps the stress levels. And so the question is, how long do you suggest people do this for? And, is this something that they do daily? And how would you do it in treatment? Is it the same? Do you do it for longer? A couple of questions all at once. I'm sorry.
Right. So in an appointment with a client, sometimes I have appointments where the entire appointment is just tapping because they're in such an over, sympathetic dominance, like just over anxious state, that we're just working on it. And some people just respond beautifully to it. So it's like, okay, let's go with it and let's get this working for you. When I first started with tapping, I had actually trained in hypnosis first. So the hypnosis is okay, so just, relax and settle back and close your eyes and all good. But if somebody's like kind of, vibrating off the chair and, there's just like, it's not going to work. So I found that just bringing the anxiety down, sometimes people will just be anxious about the hypnosis because they've never done it before. They're like, I don't know, what's she going to do to me? And so if we just bring that down a little bit, then this is just a kind of a softer place. One of the people I learned from, he just talked about when he started doing tapping, he did it like all day long. Like he was just tap, 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 tap. And he was doing it for months, and he was just going through belief systems and emotions and past traumas and all that kind of stuff. So one way I think of tapping is, the pressure cookers today are a little bit different in design, but I had an old pressure cooker years ago, and the way they worked is they had this little gadget on the top, and when it would come up to pressure, the gadget would dance. It would just kind of move around and let off little bits of steam. And so that's the way I think of tapping, is that if you're just letting off little bits of steam throughout your day, then by the end of the day, you're less kind of in a place of, looking for that food or that beverage or, an hours of Netflix or whatever the thing might be, to just kind of like unwind, like you're in a more stable place. The other thing about tapping is you don't have to do all the points, and there are some kind of neat hacks where you can do it and nobody else knows that you're doing it. So you could just kind of lightly tap on the side of your hand with your hand under the table. Or there's another point that I just want to mention here. It's at the back of the hand between the ring finger and the baby finger, and it's called the gamut point, G-A-M-U-T. I don't know why it's called that, but it's kind of in that valley between the ring finger and the baby finger. And that point there, if you're watching on the video how to tap on that, that's really good for panic. So to just know that if you're feeling particularly like stressed or overwhelmed, tapping or just holding that point. So you can just kind of sit and hold that point and nobody knows that you're soothing yourself. Sometimes I notice myself, I'll have kind of my hands, so my thumbs are on the tender spot and my fingers are on under the arm. And I'm just kind of holding those points, and that's just soothing my nervous system. I'm somebody who's just very sensitive and very wired for sensitivity, so I tend to get overwhelmed pretty easily, and this can just kind of calm me right down. Plus, I have clients coming to me with some really big issues and really, upsetting stories, and so to kind of just, reset my nervous system can be really helpful. So there are lots of ways that you can do this, and nobody else needs to know that you're doing it. It's pretty cool. So I wouldn't mind doing one more round with, we'll just add in another modality that can be helpful. Yep. So side of the hand, even though I have all this stress, and I'm supposed to let this stress go. And I would love to do that. And I tell it to go, and it comes right back. And that stresses me even more. Could I love and accept myself anyway? Even though I have all this stress, Could I be easier and more gentle on myself? Even though I have all this stress, and thinking about my stress increases my stress. And I am told, you just need to let this go. But it seems to boomerang and come right back to me. I'm not even sure how to let it go. And I'm feeling even more stressed as a result. Eyebrow. All this stress and all that it means. Could I let it go? Side of the eye. All this stress and all that it means. Would I let it go? Under the eye, all this stress and all that it means. When? Under the nose, could I let this go? I don't think so. I love being stressed. I'm hanging on to this stress. This is my stress, and you can't take it from me. I'm going to be 102 and stressed like you would not believe. And that's my plan for life. Chin. Well, I hate being stressed. I would love to let this go. Collarbone. Could I let this go? Would I let this go? When? Under the arm. Could I let this go? Would I let this go? When? Top of the head, letting this stress go. And maybe it'll go right away. Maybe it'll drift off throughout my day. Could I let this go? Would I let this go? When? Okay, take a breath. Check in on your numbers and see what that's like.
So that was like awesome. I totally let go. Thank you.
Oh,
I totally identified with what you were saying more than the first one. So I went down to like another 2, like 2.5, I'll say.
Whoa, that's nice.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I think that the other thing is like I was less being, on the podcast. I'm actually doing this.
Yeah.
So it was great.
Yeah, you
Tanya?
mentioned multitasking. Yeah. Tanya, any thoughts?
Oh, yeah. So feedback. I would say it brought it down a couple notches, maybe like a 5, because I have I have like a nerve that's being pinched in my neck. And so I had 8 weeks of vertigo, and then now I just have chronic pain. And if it's not managed, like I've never had chronic pain, so I'm like stuck in that. Like, and I'm like, I wonder how much of that is to do with my conscious like thoughts and stuff. But bones literally pinching my nerve. And I sleep and I feel better, but then I walk around and I feel a bit floating and stuff like that. And so it's hard to break. Like normally, like with me and stress, I find like what you're saying really resonates. Like you don't need to be stressed. And so I used to talk myself out of like those thoughts. But it's hard when you have pain, I find. I don't know.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
But it's worse when my nervous system's like overactive for sure. So I think it would help. I do have a comment. I had never done tapping until once. And then now, when I went through my fertility journey, little quick story. I had gone through some miscarriages after having my first child, and I was finally pregnant, but then having subchorionic hematoma bleeding, and then I finally had a confirmation that my little phoenix was there, and I saw feet, and then I was like bawling my eyes out and phoned a friend who was from a fertility clinic, and she's like, are you going to get to work okay? Because I saw feet and I was so excited. And so I was so like in this like high excitement, but like sad at the same time, like all this mixed emotions. She's like, I think you're having a panic attack. Like, also, I was like, I don't know what's wrong, but I don't know if I can get to work. Anyway, she's like, let's try tapping. So she tapped me out of that, whatever emotion, like high and low I was in. And then I never did tapping again until now, but it really did bring me out of it. And it was quite outstanding, because I would say in that moment, even though it was good stress, it was like 9 out of 10 for sure. It was a weird moment of my life. And I just remember just doing what she was doing. And I was like, okay, 5 minutes in, I'm like, I think I can go to work now.
That's
so
awesome.
just like kind of a cool little moment. So good stress can sometimes be, like very exciting, and like your body reacts in a very similar way to like bad stress sometimes. So it could be for good or bad, like the high cortisol moments. So
Thank you
it's quite
for that.
outstanding. Like I didn't expect that, a friend would say like, someone has told me about tapping. And so I did, and I didn't know what it was until now. So thank you.
Thank you, Tanya, for going through that. And this is a live demo. And I mean, this is real. This is your life. And, when I say you, I mean anybody that's listening or watching. We all literally have challenges. We all have skeletons in our closets. And it's really great to know that there are things that we can do and people we can turn to, so that we have people in our corner, right? Like a true community that can help. And so I would say, feel free to reach out to Shawn and go through AliveHolisticHealth.ca. And if you haven't done so, go through our myfertology.com. And we have lots of different resources so that you can really get through your days and make your life a little easier, a little bit more inspired, a little bit more hopeful. And this is why we do these podcasts or YouTube videos, because we really want to help you. We've got your back.